And I can tell you I'm super blessed. I have the best wife in the world. We have an amazing life. Building a family is the coolest thing ever. And my prayer for all of you is that you one day can do that.
That's so cute.
It's honestly the most joyful thing. And I've had some pretty amazing experiences. I've been very, very blessed. Very lucky, you could say, but very blessed is the word I would use. And the greatest joy I've ever had is coming home to my little daughter running up to my leg. There's nothing that even comes close to it. Not flying on Air Force One, not meeting with presidents. That pales in comparison to your little girl coming up and squeezing your leg.
Yeah, it's just heartbreaking hearing that, and the fact that those kids are going to grow up without a father and also learn about his life. And, he has a whole library of countless of videos online. They're going to wake up, they're going to watch those things, and they're going to grieve and mourn the dad that they basically never had, especially I think he had a 1-year-old. Something good about the conservative movement is the focus on the family. I think we have a lot of rhetoric in the West now coming from quote unquote progressives that, really diss the family unit and downplay the value of the nuclear family. And I see this a lot in the gay community, in which monogamy is actually sort of looked down upon and seen as you're not sexually liberated, which is totally not how I feel. And, I've heard interesting arguments lately about the kind of boomer generation, or perhaps slightly younger, in which the style of parenting was a bit, I just need to have as little time with my kids as possible, just go outside, play all day, leave me alone, let me get back to work. I need to find things to preoccupy them constantly, put them in all these evening activities. Now, there's a lot of good in that, but I think what's coming back is a resurgence of actually quality time with one's family, and above all, cherishing your relationships with your children, with your spouse, because everything else is kind of secondary. You can have a job, you can have hobbies, you can have money, but what is life? If you do have a family, you have to remember how lucky you are. I find it very difficult to understand how anyone with a logical brain could watch that video and not see that he had really good intentions, at least for his family.
I got a question.
Sure. What was your name again? I'm sorry.
I don't think I told you. My name's Mercury.
Nice to meet you.
Why are you here?
Okay, I've been asked that question a lot. First of all, that question should...
I'm going to try not to have any I don't want this video to be about laughing and making jokes like I usually am, because I want to honor Charlie's memory, but Mercury is an interesting name choice.
Not even have to be asked, but when people stop talking, really bad stuff starts. When marriages stop talking, divorce happens. When civilizations stop talking, civil war ensues. When you stop having a human connection with someone you disagree with, it becomes a lot easier to want to commit violence against that group. What we as a culture have to get back to is being able to have reasonable disagreement where violence is not an option.
You think that's not emotional violence?
How is this... What is emotional violence, by the way?
So, can people see again this tragic irony of what he just said and what happened? His whole mantra was, when people stop talking, violence happens. And when we disagree, we have to come together and talk it out and understand, why do you feel the way you feel? Can I change your mind? Or perhaps we have more common ground than we know. But what's become out of the new left, the woke left, the hard left in recent decade is this idea of emotional safety and emotional harm, and that words are violence, and that we need to protect people from that. But it only goes towards these minority protected groups, right? It can cause emotional offense to Christians, to conservatives, to white men, to white people in general. That's fine, but the rest have to be shielded from emotional harm, which I think a lot of us on this channel would agree that that is not practical. It's not fair on those individuals. It's not going to prepare them for the real world, to deal with rejection, to deal with conflict, to deal with differences of opinion. And ultimately, I think it's extremely pernicious. And I imagine this person's younger than me, maybe 10 years younger. It's very hard for me to get my head around being raised with this idea where, they're true believers. I think some of them are true believers that words can be violence. And that is something we need to eradicate. Words could lead to violence if you're inciting violence, but just offering your opinion on things is not the same.
I don't know what that is.
It is harm intentionally perpetrated on another another human being that is intentionally targeted at their emotional well-being.
Okay, so feelings mean nothing to me.
Yeah, intention, very subjective, right? Because a lot of people would just give their opinions, and, if someone happens to find that offensive, they'll say, well, you're trying to cause me emotional harm, when a lot of the time that's not the case. Sure, you could be, vindictive, and you could be legitimately racist towards someone because you want to hurt their feelings. But I honestly don't think that is where the majority are coming from, especially those in the public sphere who are political commentators.
Isn't why we had the First Amendment to try to push our boundaries and to hear things that might make you mildly uncomfortable?
This doesn't make me mildly uncomfortable.
Does it make you very uncomfortable?
It makes me angry.
Free speech makes you angry, you know. It's really chilling that we have a whole cohort of students, of youth that actually disagree with free speech. And Charlie came to the UK back in May, went to Oxford Union, Cambridge Union. You should watch those debates. And he wrote a column in The Spectator where he was saying, you know, a lot of these students I met genuinely don't believe in free speech, and it's worrying. And we have to try, you know, maybe there's some people who it's a lost cause, but, you know, we're going to have more generations growing up. And I really hope we can break this barrier and really change our institutions so that we come back to a place of valuing free speech and valuing interpersonal relationships above all else. You know, I know just as well as a lot of people for expressing their opinions, the friends I've lost, the issues I've caused with family, and it hurts and it doesn't stop hurting. It takes its toll on you eventually, and I've especially felt that lately. But what's the alternative is not being true to yourself, and, you know, I will always try and choose the latter.
I just want to say I'm a transgender male. What age should kids be able to get things like hormone therapy? Because I don't know what's true, what's not.
Tell me, are you comfortable telling me your story?
I've known that since like 3rd grade, and I'm currently 19, almost 20. I've known basically since then. I didn't start going by like a different name until 7th and 8th grade. I just don't know, like, with the whole medical stuff, like what's true, what's not, what's helpful, because I've heard so many different opinions.
First of all, thank you so much for that.
Yeah, of course.
So,
I mean, a very reasonable woman there who identifies as trans. You don't come across these type of people online very often, but, you know, I respect her for speaking to Charlie in that way, not being scared, also being quite curious about whether she's right to go down a medical route, which I think makes, you know, it should be a no-brainer for anyone considering such drastic things.
I'm going to have an opinion that very few people will ever tell you, which is I want you to be very cautious putting drugs into your system in the pursuit of changing your body. Mm-hmm. I instead encourage you to work on what's going on in your brain first. I think what you need first and foremost is just a diagnosis. Mm-hmm. Just someone that is going to listen to what you've gone through, listen to what else is going on. My prayer for you, and again, very few people will say this, I actually want to see you be comfortable in how you were born.
Yeah.
I know that you might not feel that way, but I think that is something that you can achieve. I think that with the right team and the right people, you don't have to wage war on your body. You can learn to love your body.
You know, it doesn't sound like a Nazi to me, to be honest. I mean, you can tell that he has respect for this individual, and I do believe that he wanted the best for her, regardless of what she chooses. But people on the trans activist side will flip this and manipulate this to suggest that by saying that he hopes one day she can be comfortable in her own body, that somehow he doesn't want trans people to exist and that he's trying to erase them. I sort of feel like if I was talking to quite a hardline Christian or any religious person really, and they believed that being gay isn't necessarily a fixed state, which I believe it is, whether you're born gay or not, no one knows. But if they said to me, you know, I believe that you may find true happiness if one day you learn to accept the biological reality of procreating with a woman. You know, I don't agree with that, and I think it lacks understanding of homosexuality. But if they were an upstanding person and otherwise treated me with respect and wanted me to be free and didn't want to criminalize me or anything like that, then honestly, I'm in a place in life where I'm fine with that. We may not be best friends, we may not have lots in common, but that is all I want, is for us to be able to live freely and not infringe on each other's rights in that way. So I wonder what happened to that girl, but I respect her for engaging in the conversation.
I'm a gay conservative, and I just want to ask you, what do you have to say for people like me who kind of feel like, I guess, it's kind of hard for gay conservatives because there's not a lot of us. So, like, what do you have to say to other gay people who need to realize, like, they do have a choice?
Yeah, first of all, welcome to the conservative movement.
So he did welcome gay people into the conservative movement. There's lots of great clips out there, him arguing about homosexuality, in which he's defending it and defending the rights for gay people to live freely and not be criminalized, especially in other countries, and that they should be welcomed to the conservative movement. Whether he believes that marriage is about a man and a woman or not, that doesn't mean that he wants gay people to die, wants gay people to not be free or live the life they live. And this is a testament to that.
I don't think you should introduce yourself just based on your sexual
No,
attractions.
I agree. I like
because that's not who you are.
I like to be thought of as a person, and
For sure. You are a complete human being, and I'm sure you treat people well, and you're studying something. So I want to get away with this idea that you're gay anything. I just think that we have gone a long way in the negative direction in this country, where we act as if the most important part of your identity is what you do in the bedroom. It doesn't mean that much to me, but if you ask from a perspective as a Christian, I don't agree with that lifestyle, but politics is about addition and multiplication. I imagine you agree with a lot of what we talk about.
Absolutely.
Right? Strong borders, strong country, and for that, we welcome you into the conservative movement.
Yeah, I mean, I don't agree with everything he said, but I respect his opinion. I think that, yes, there's far too much focus these days on making these kind of labels your entire identity. I worry about there being a pendulum swing too far, because to say, you know, why is who you want to sleep with in the bedroom anything to do with who you are important? I think it's kind of a very narrow, two-dimensional view, because I am gay and I've accepted that, and I've also managed to reach a place where I'm actually really happy about that, but I don't make it everything. I don't feel like a victim. However, it's more than who you just sleep with, because it means that you have to operate a very different way in society. You cannot just meet someone and procreate and have a normal life and have a baby. You have to consider maybe you will be childless. You have to consider if you have a child, how is that going to happen? All the stigma around that from certain people. There's just a very different way of operating, even in school. You know, boys and girls start communicating and behaving with each other differently as they go through puberty. For a gay person, that's a completely different experience. And it does shape you. It does shape your outlook on the world. It does shape how you move through the world. And in some cases, with unsupportive families or networks, it can be really damaging. So I don't think we should do away with it completely. I think he kind of snubbed the guy a little bit when his point he wasn't trying to say like, first of all, I'm gay. I think he was trying to say, I happen to be gay, and it's really difficult because people can't see my views as legitimate. I do think that's an important conversation to have, because I experience a lot of the same stuff. Okay, next.
I'm a feminist, and I don't
Okay,
hate
so
men.
you are a self-described feminist. What is a woman?
Why do you want to know?
I'm infinitely curious.
What's a man?
You're looking at one.
Why do you think that that's important to you, what a man and a woman is?
So
Do you
you
treat men
can't-
and women differently?
Well, it depends in what context, though. Politically, no. Under the law, no. Should they treat it differently in societal customs and norms? Yes.
Why?
Like, we should open doors for women. We should honor and protect women.
Sounds like a misogynist that people are claiming him to be, you know.
I want
And-
to honor and protect you, man.
Okay,
Aw,
great,
do you
thank
not
you.
honor and
Women are
protected?
worthy of protection.
Yeah, I don't even need to kind of debunk the stuff she's saying, because we've talked all about this on the channel. You know, you can see the tactics she's using of avoiding the question, putting things back on him, trying to make him feel bad for wanting the question asked. You know, it's like, there's a problem with you because you are asking this question. I'm immediately suspicious of you because you're asking a very straightforward question. And also then becoming patronizing and ridiculing the person. It's so easy to spot these things now. It's all an obfuscation, the fact that, you know, she doesn't want to answer the question because she knows what a woman is. Nearly everyone knows what a woman is. Deep down, even the TRAs, I feel like for someone like her, who's a good progressive liberal, there's very little she can say without putting a toe out of line, which in her camp,
You tell
don't
me
wanna
what a
do.
woman is since you're a feminist.
You're saying these things because you're trying to get a gotcha.
You're
Okay,
a
so
feminist. Shouldn't you be able to tell me what a woman is?
I'm a feminist.
Isn't that probably
because-
important to feminism? What is the woman that you're trying to
I know,
advance and
right?
protect?
Bruh.
Isn't that
This is so
integral to?
funny.
Is that the whole feminist project? The war
Asking
against.
what a woman is the only way that you can get a
Well,
gotcha over everybody
I-
else. Why is it so important?
I mean, if I was a campaigner for animal rights and someone asked me what's an animal, you know, it's probably the most basic thing that I could say. You know, if I thought that tables could be animals, then it wouldn't make sense, right? Because when we have language and we refer to things, we have to know what we're all referring to. And if one word means something completely different for someone else, we cannot communicate coherently and we can't create government policy coherently.
Important to you to define things in certain categories? How does that help your day-to-day life? Like
What other categories in the human species are there besides male and female?
Well, I just think that categorization is usually unhelpful when we're trying to improve society, right?
I have XY chromosomes.
Okay.
Can I give birth?
Yeah, I mean, everyone knows that he was a great debater. You know, I feel like debating in the US has become, maybe it's always been this way, but it's a very different style to what we do here in the UK. Sometimes I can listen to it, but I do find occasionally they're quite grating on me. Some of them are very skilled debaters, right? So it's not necessarily about what you say and the arguments you have, it's how you say them and how you sometimes confuse your opponent and different tactics. So I feel like there's a lot of that going on in the US and people who are very skilled. So for example, Mehdi Hassan, who I don't agree with anything on, and I find a lot of his views offensive. He's a very skilled debater. And even if he's up against someone that can challenge his views quite well, he'll come out on top if he's the more skilled debater. So I do find a lot of these American debating styles quite difficult to listen to. For example, Piers Morgan's show, I'll tune into an episode here or there if it has someone I really like on. Apart from that, it's just a whole load of people screaming over each other. Or if you think about Jubilee Surrounded, that's the same. I find it very difficult to take. Yes, some of Charlie's debates were that way a little bit, but I think he's one of the slightly more easier people to listen to over someone like Ben Shapiro, just my opinion. And the final clip I have here is the accusation that Charlie was a racist. I'll let the video speak for itself.
Charlie Kirk sent me a direct message, and I'm going to show you what it said. This is almost 6 years ago exactly now, as of this video. I had not spoken to him in person or on social media. He started the conversation. You know what he said? 3 words. You are terrific. Now bear in mind, this is back before I was blessed with the followership I have now. I had fewer than 10,000 followers on Instagram, very small Facebook presence, wasn't even on TikTok at the time. But the fact of the matter is, this young man, this leader of Turning Point USA, reached out to me and saw something I had done.
Just to think, 2019, he was 25, I look at him and I think of someone in their 40s, can disagree with everything he did, but it's pretty impressive what he managed to achieve in how long he's been alive, as I have. I find that very impressive. Watching stuff like this, I find it incredibly sad that all of these videos and clips are just at our fingertips. If any one of these people claiming Charlie Kirk was a white supremacist, hated black people, hated gay people, wanted gay people stoned to death, didn't want women in the workforce, if any of these people claiming all these things, even after he was murdered, to slander him, if they just gave themselves 15 minutes of like, okay, right, I have all these opinions, I'm just going to watch a few of these things to see if I'm right. Only someone who's incredibly dishonest, deceitful, and has a very clear agenda to purposely smear someone, which I honestly don't think most of these people have. I think a lot of people are just caught up so much in this good versus evil mentality, but I struggle to know how anyone could see what I just saw, what you just saw, and not realize that, okay, they may find some of his views objectionable, but it's far from a black and white, evil, good scenario that they're putting across. And I find it incredibly frustrating how many people there are, people I know even. I just wish I could convince them to sit down and watch some of these, for example, some videos on other topics too. And I would be willing to do the same thing. What's frustrating is that the information is there at our fingertips to inform ourselves, but the political climate encourages us to stay in our echo chambers, even if we know there's all these debates out there, there's hours of footage, long debates, black people defending him, gay people defending him, women defending him. Even if they know that's there, they don't dare watch it, because the costs of doing that mean realizing that they've been espousing pretty horrible views about humanity, and also it really threatens their social circle, the kind of friends they've collected, kind of safety net they have in their community, because a lot of people these days will not be friends with someone who has opposing political beliefs. I also understand that, because the social costs are so huge, you don't dare engage with something because what if? And I think a lot of these thoughts occur at a subconscious level and people are highly repressed. But I can just say for myself, it's been worth it to become someone who's less scared of disagreement, who's more understanding of different perspectives. And yes, there'll be some people who think something and that is too much for me and we don't have to be friends. But as long as they don't want violence upon me or my human rights taken away, then that's what matters ultimately. So just to conclude again, I'm so sorry about what's happened. It's a tragedy, and my sincere condolences to his memory and to everyone who knew Charlie Kirk.